Hello everybody, my name is Maya Sanchez, and today I will be speaking with you about the evaluation of scientific and popular literature with regards to the benefits of yoga for certain patient populations. So let's get started. So yoga is an ancient practice which originates from India, and it focuses on healing the mind, the spirit, and the body as a whole, and really helping to facilitate that connection between the mind and the body, as well as help the practitioner become one with themselves and one with their surroundings. So I've evaluated both scientific literature and popular literature in this review. So for the scientific literature, the first article that I had referenced was about the benefits of yoga in a nursing home within the elderly population. So some of the benefits of yoga for the elderly were decreased levels of depression, increased musculoskeletal strength, and increased spinal strength, and decreased pain within the back and the whole spinal area. It also helped the elderly come to terms with the aging process, which was hard for them to do in this study just because they were retired and they felt as though they were not contributing to society anymore, so they would have fallen into a depression. So this article was deemed as good evidence because they had expertly referenced all of their APA citations at the bottom of the article. They had included parenthetical citations. It was published in a peer-reviewed journal. The only real downfall that this article had was the lack of explanation as to how they came to their conclusions. They only presented the data and did not really present how they got that data for the evaluation. So that was really their only shortcoming. So for the second article that I had evaluated in the scientific literature, this explored the benefits of yoga in patients with multiple sclerosis, MS, stroke, and children with cerebral palsy. So the benefits of yoga for those MS and stroke patients were decreased levels of depression as well as an increased quality in life. And then the benefits for those children with cerebral palsy were increased motility and flexibility. So I deem this evidence as a good source because they had expertly cited each single data point. They had a wonderful basis to review all of this information. They had gone through over 9,000 articles trying to find the perfect data for this review. They had also directly cited where they got their data from, the country, the demographic, all of it was included in the article right next to that data point as well. The only place where they were really lacking was in the clarity of their conclusions. Their conclusions included a lot of statistical analysis, which made it difficult to interpret, mostly because I have not yet had a statistics class, so it was difficult to digest that terminology for me. The third article that I had evaluated was about the effects of yoga in pregnant women. So some of these effects were a more comfortable childbirth experience. I had utilized the yoga poses and the breathing techniques to help deal with that pain and even lessen that pain. And then postpartum, these techniques were also used to help reduce anxiety and stress while taking care of a new baby. So they had really honed those techniques that they learned in their yoga class and integrated them into their lives. So for the popular literature, the first article that I had analyzed was the American Osteopathic Association, and this article mostly talked about the physiological benefits of yoga, such as increased bone density and increased musculoskeletal strength. So I deemed this article as good evidence because it was published in the mainstream media. It had included some consistent results that I had seen with every other piece of literature that I had reviewed. It was referenced by a medical doctor, so I had their medical opinion throughout the entire article. The only downfall to this article was that it lacked references, APA references, and references to other research, so that was really the only area of improvement I saw for this article. The second article that I evaluated in the popular literature was through Yoga Journal, and it was about the physiological, mental, and spiritual benefits of yoga. So this article was deemed as a good source of evidence, one, because it was published in mainstream media, and it was also written by a medical doctor, so it included his medical opinion throughout the entire article. And the only flaw that I really saw in this article was that it did not include APA citations once again, and it vaguely referenced different pieces of literature in the article. But other than that, they had very clear conclusions, and I thought the article was very informative as a whole. So the third article that I had evaluated in the popular literature came from Northwestern University's College of Medicine. And this mostly talked about the endocrinology behind the yoga practice, the physiology behind the practice, and the mental side of yoga. So this was a very strong source of information, mostly because it was from a reputable web page. It even linked the references to their different data points and their different conclusions throughout the body of the web page. They had utilized medical opinions, and all of their conclusions were very much in line with everything else that I had already seen. So although the scientific and the popular literature are both wonderful sources of information to evaluate the benefits of yoga, there were also differences between those two sources as well. I found that the scientific literature most of the time was a more credible source, mainly because they had included numerical data. So that numerical data helped take any bias out of the article, mostly because they were raw numbers and they are left up to the reader to really interpret. The popular literature did not really have numerical data included in their articles. It was mostly a analysis of the author, which could lead to bias in the end. So the scientific articles were more credible in that aspect. They were also more credible just because they had really given a clear basis of information as to where they had obtained all of their data. They had clear APA citations. I didn't really see that in the popular literature. Popular literature was mostly just facts that were listed out on a web page. They didn't really have that information and that dense background that I needed to really feel that those articles were more credible than the scientific literature. So that is why I thought that the scientific literature was just an overall better resource to use in the evaluation of this evidence. So in conclusion, both scientific literature and popular literature articles regarding the efficacy of yoga practice are both wonderful sources to use. I highly recommend looking at the benefits of yoga, looking deeply into those benefits, because they really are instrumental, especially in the healthcare field, which is why I believe that research needs to be advocated, especially as nurses. Nurses are right there at the bedside. They know what their patients need the most. So they should be the ones to really advocate for the implementation of yoga into care plans and just really advocate for research, because those findings are truly incredible and they can really change the outcomes for these patients. So they could be really instrumental in helping a lot of patients who are in chronic pain, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So that really concludes my presentation today. Thank you so much for watching and joining me in this discussion. Thank you.